On November 13th and 14th, 2021, Tigray's armed forces gained control of key area that leads to Gaint, Nefas Maucha, and Esete, with casualties in thousands, including Brigade Commander Colonel Lemata Dessa, in addition to the capture of Kabe, Sanyogabea, and Warailu towns. Chefe Karakore, Ataye, Sembete, and Majete were also captured by Tigray's armed forces in collaboration with Oromo Liberation Army. The Ethiopian government continues arbitrary arrests of Tigrayans living in the capital, Addis Ababa, and in other Ethiopian cities. Life has become horrific for Tigrayans in the city as they have been detained, searched door to door, collected from their offices, gathered from streets and buses. Abraha Gabrinsase has more on that.
Ethnic-based arrests on Tigrayans living in Addis Ababa escalated dramatically when the federal government declared a state of emergency following the rapid advancement of Tigray forces towards the capital. The state of emergency gives unlimited power to authorities to arrest people they wanted. Thousands of Tigrayans are now languishing in unidentified prisons and detaining centers. Many others are being chased after. Families of victims described the horrific turmoil of Tigrayans via secret telephone calls from Addis Ababa. They spoke on condition of anonymity for their safety.
نباريت أديس أبابا أديس أبابا بتعمي عم حما أتشجر الله بتعمي تجني أنا تشقاريرنا كفينا إذا الله سبع أي إحواتي قدم سلسة معلت توسيدهم أبزلو أيبلني فرقهم كبيرة توسيدهم فرقهم كعب جزا توسيدهم سلكم ما يسرحن أبدي الله يبهلون
أبي حسات سجن سبزر وجه سرلو كاب جزو كاب سرحو كاب تكسي كي تعرفه من خلوهم من قدي الناس يركبوا
قروتنا تأثيرهم معرفتنا تأثيرهم نحنا تحابينا لنا ترايز ولا تعمري كم زي بفيديو بقدر تعشمي كون انترو لها أنا سنالو قول له وننستلالون لكن حبوتنا يتعرف سواء حفته يتعرف كلهم تأثيرهم اللون تأمو كله ولا حنت زي كله تقرأ سلازو قناسي كله أصول يبدي سوا زلو
تقرنيا بمن زرامنا طرح تجارب مخنا طرح بزح قفعي زي بحالات قفعي ورد اللي
طعمي بلا حفر كنتات ود سويك في السمو ايتو عيرو ليه حسه أديس أبابا نبرت تناقر تقرنيا لو صحنا له قفعي زلبها القفعي خوني طعمي أسكاق لخونه بمخنيات أونا اللي تقرنيا بمن قارنا بتشا جزانا أتيوم لك زرفوناي حما أنا قر لك صور حمبي منهم كشكا أخذي يخوني منقستي هذا ما نمدرو يكجورو يخال خليت سبوي نجر قفعتاتي لسرحنا له أديس أبابا نبر لنا تجارو.
Those who escaped the detention so far are in dire condition, being extremely terrified by the situation. They even desperately called concerned bodies to help them.
جزا بستون كحقوق وترك حزونا ريخون دارنا بتعمي إنا تساءلنا زلنا بجاكم زملكة وأكلت هاللي عبصحلنا ردونا حجزونا بزح قفعي زكاية زلوا أديس أبابا نحنا مو تقرينا نزارب قدفوه راش تقرينا زي خلو بزح عمل توليدهم زعبية وزعدة تجارو حادي الكايم كلت الكايم زي سمع تقرينا محارنا زارو وتجارو انقان تقراوت بزخون زارقهم راح تقراوي بمخانو بتعمي بزح تشجر بزح كفعي إزوات الحمد لله.
According to the witnesses, the detention is not because the people under arrest appeared to have done something suspicious, but because they turn out to be Tigrayans.
تقراوي دبلس متوقع هليخا نار من تحليخا بلاي منهم نجر بقى تحفيز خا أخذ أسريت وسد بلاي منهم حتوريتو عرفتنا نور هندي كاسرح بودهم كجوزهم توسيتهم يا إحنا لما أزهم نسدينا نتقبل لنا يا وبقى مالت جزاها كفت لخلك أو جزاها متيم لوس دخا تتنقص أسخالك كاسرح بوتها خمتيم لوس دخا منهم بقى إحناس ندعي بتعمزل لنا خناتات بتعمي حما خناتاتي بتعمي
استمعت بسروك بجزاز بحلاي وصانا هتقامت ندابا خيو نحنا وسط خوينا ندتج أنا قلت أم بزبالة أطري يعني عم بستبها لأطر بتعمل لبنا يجنا الله إننا منمكن قبرايك أدنا نابزي كاموت زينا أسنورو إنا ننبر زلنا
Tigrayans have been targeted throughout Ethiopia during the year-long war in Tigray. Tens of thousands of former Tigrayan members of the Ethiopian National Defense Forces have been detained merely because they are Tigrayans. Now, the detention has gone into a different scale, and authorities in Addis Ababa are hunting Tigrayans door to door, on streets, at workplace, and anywhere in the city, and detaining them without any justification.
Meanwhile, the UN Rights Office said that Tigrayan origins are arrested in mass in the capital and elsewhere in the country. According to the report, at least 1,000 individuals have been detained over the couple of weeks due to the excessive provisions of state of emergency to arrest, search, and detain people. People are detained without knowing the reasons of their detention, and still they have not appeared in court. The detention of Tigrayans is taking place in Gondar and Bahar Dar and other locations in addition to the capital. President Debretsion Gebremichael issued a televised statement on November 13th, 2021 on the coalition of political organizations. According to the president, the aim of the coalition is to protect the existing constitutional rights of all nations and nationalities to self-determination. He further added that there are issues that require mutual discussions and solutions. For more, Aragawi Gebremichael reports.
President Debretsion Gebremichael gave a statement on Tigray television on November 30, 2021 regarding the coalition of the 9 political organizations. On his statement, the president explained the reasons to the political organizations' newly formed coalition. According to the president, the coalition aims to protect the existing constitutional rights of all nations and nationalities to self-determination, including Tigray, by building firm foundations for a transitional government.
This front deals with issues on organizing an interim and transitional government within a short period of time. In addition, the Mutual Front is responsible for how to establish the transitional government and those who will be participants of this transition. We believe they are responsible for coming up with ideas on how to better lead the country and prepare a roadmap for the future.
Though there are issues that demand mutual discussions and solutions, the case of Tigray needs special treatment and resolutions in accordance to the genocide committed against the people of Tigray, said President Debretsion Gebremichael.
የትግራይም የራሱ የተለየ ባህሪ ስላለው ከትግራይ አንጻር እዚህ ትግራይ የተፈጸሙ በደሎች ለየት ያሉ ናቸው።
The case of Tigray has its own unusual future due to the horrific atrocities committed on the people. There are different questions raised by the people and the government of Tigray, including the people's right to referendum. Unusual atrocities, massacres, and genocide are committed against the people of Tigray, so someone needs to be judicially accountable. Moreover, because too many damages were caused and we need compensation.
The president also states Tigray's government's and Mutual Front's mission. According to the president, the task of the government of Tigray is preservation of the rights of the people of Tigray and end their current suffering.
የህዝቦች ጥያቄ በደሎችም ሌሎች በዚህ መልኩ ማስተናገድ አለብን።
We do not have alternative mission other than protecting the rights of our people and ending their suffering. Therefore, the front is imperative for many reasons in settling our issues, plus our mutual issues. We are well aware that the front is on its early stages and it requires a lot of deliberation. We are not saying that things should be implemented just because we said so. We are self-aware of our direction. As for others, we will see their deliberations as we move forward to reach common understandings of leadership structures for the country's future.
President Debretsion also stated that as the country's current problem is political, the solution should be also political. Therefore, the Mutual Front will be creating favorable conditions to find political solutions through discussions.
የህዝቦች ጥያቄ በደሎችም ሌሎች በዚህ መልኩ ማስተናገድ አለብን።
The questions and the mistreatments of the people should be addressed through dialogue. As the problem is political, the solution therefore should be political. It's not going to end by force. The use of force is only complementary.
The president also explained the difference between the current front from the one in the 1990s and rejected the central government's allegation that Tigray's government aims for controlling power.
Tigray External Affairs issued a press release regarding the Ethiopia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs statement on U.S. government sanctions imposed on the Eritrean officials and entities. The office says that the international community should continue to turn up the heat on these genocidal partners until they deviate from their destructive path. Abel Tagabu has more on that. Federal institutions based in Tigray, such as telecommunication, airports, and universities, have been completely cut off from the federal government, which is supposed to fund and manage them. Consequently, thousands of employees of the institutions have been severely affected by the man-made famine and ongoing crisis. Raya University is one of the federal institutions which have been systematically closed and devastated by the actions of the federal government. The university's community and management have thoroughly discussed the problems posed by Abiy Ahmed's regime on the very institutions, its community, as well as the people of Tigray at large. Darasa Burhana has more on that.
Baraya University had been turned into military camp for about 8 months, where the Ethiopian National Defense Forces and its allies were actively operating in the area. As a result, its properties had been destroyed and looted by the invading forces. Unfortunately, the devastation has sustained following the total siege and the closure of the critical services. The very much affected community of the university have recently gathered and discussed about the institution they are in.
University Raya ካብዞም ኣብዚ ጸገም ለፈጠሮም ዩኒቨርሲቲ ማእከል ሓደ እዩ።
Raya University is of the institutions that have been badly affected by the actions of the federal government. Due to the closure of banking services and the withholding of our budget by the federal government, we couldn't effect the salary payment of our academic and support staff for the last 5 months. As a result, our university community is in an existential problem.
In a press conference he gave at the end of the meeting, President of the university, Professor Taddese Dejene, said the community of his university has been severely affected by the systematic closure of the institution. Professor Taddese further said other universities that are based out of Tigray are doing out of their mandates. He said they are adding fuel to the fire by sponsoring the war waged on the people of Tigray.
University ጸገም ምፍታሕ ክትፈትሕ ለለዋ ትካል ምዃን ትግባእ ተሎ
While universities are expected to solve societal problems, universities in Ethiopia have become sources of the worsening crisis. We are totally dismayed by their actions.
ኢትዮጵያ 43-44 ዩኒቨርሲቲዎች አሉ።
There are more than 43 public universities in Ethiopia. Most of the universities that are based out of Tigray are sponsoring the war that has been waged on the people of Tigray. They are spending millions to wipe out the people of Tigray. This is totally irresponsible and unacceptable. They have to stop it and come back to their senses.
It is to be recalled that Ethiopian Ministry of Education has recently announced that the students who had been pursuing their studies in the 4 universities based in Tigray have been relocated to other universities in Ethiopia. And many have regarded it as the Ethiopian government is making preparations to officially close the 4 universities based in Tigray.
ተማሪዎቹ ወደ ሌላ ዩኒቨርሲቲዎች እንዲመደቡ እና
We condemn the Ethiopian government decision to close our university and relocate our students to other universities. It also excludes Tigrayan University students and endangers their fate. So we urge the government to rethink and revise its course of action. The relocation of our students to other universities must stop soon. We call on the government to send them to our university and resume the functioning of our institution.
The university's community have urged the Ministry of Science and Higher Education to stop the illegal relocation of its students to other universities and apologize as soon as possible. It also called on the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development to release the university's budget. It withheld at the expense of the university's more than 1,038 staff.
Apologies for the technical hiccup. I'll be reading the external affairs news again. Tigray's External Affairs issued a press release regarding the Ethiopia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs statement on U.S. government sanctions imposed on the Eritrean officials and entities. The office says that the international community should continue to turn up the heat on these genocidal partners until they deviate from their destructive path. Abel Tsagabu has more on that.
According to the press release, the Ethiopian Ministry of Foreign Affairs' objection to the sanction imposed by the US on Eritrean officials and entities indicates that the fate of the criminal regime in Addis is inextricably tied to that of the dictator in Asmara. The office also said that, despite its shameless intent to frame Ethiopia's current conflict in terms of the need to preserve internal sovereignty, Abiy's regime has already sold out the country's sovereignty the day it invited the support of foreign adversary to eliminate domestic citizens. The statement also says that Abiy's persistent claims that Eritrean troops have withdrawn from Tigray are contrary to the facts on the ground, as they continue to occupy western Tigray and some part of northern western Tigray and Europe in eastern Tigray. The External Affairs Office also says that Abiy has handed over the control of core national security institutions to Eritrean defense, security and intelligence officials, and that the criminal government has compromised national sovereignty to the degree that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs can now be justifiably considered an appendage of the Eritrean government. The press release finally stated that the international community should continue to turn up the heat on the genocidal partners until they deviate from their destructive path.
Potable water has been a critical problem of many areas in Tigray. Understandably, the government of Tigray and its development partners had been working to solve this major problem. Accordingly, many potable water projects had been constructed in the villages throughout Tigray. However, those projects have been targeted and destroyed by Abiy Ahmed's regime and his ally, Isaias Afwerki. Consequently, many Tigrayans, including residents of the vicinity of Garaalta, are forced to drink unclean water, which is exposing them to various waterborne diseases. Aragao Gabriel Mikael has more on that.
Residents of Garaalta, like many other localities in Tigray, have experienced the devastating consequences of the genocidal war. During their more than 8 months stay in Garaalta, the Allied forces have brutally massacred civilians, looted private and governmental properties, and conducted a widespread sexual assaults and destroyed civilian infrastructures, including potable water projects. Residents of the district of Garaalta are suffering from lack of potable water and waterborne disease. They describe their dire situation as follows.
The tap was destroyed by artillery. Now we're drinking from a river. We're exposed to waterborne disease as the water we're drinking is unclean. Currently, we're not only denied the access to clean water, but also the access to food. We were even blocked from getting aid from humanitarian organizations by the Eritrean troops, even when we were here. As a result, many are exposed to disease that are caused by lack of food and unclean water. Others are also dying of hunger.
The residents of the district of Garaalta are forced to lead a terrible life as they are unable to get safe and clean drinking water nearby. They must travel for hours to access potable water. They have this to say about their harrowing life.
We are drinking water from the river. We are in a great problem. The water taps are destroyed by the allied forces of Ethiopia and Eritrean forces. These forces have committed many atrocities, including the destruction of infrastructures. Now we are living under a great difficulty.
This water tap was found near to my house. All the people around used to get potable from it. But when the enemy troops came here, they destroyed it. As many people used to get service from it, all are severely affected by its destruction. As there is no electricity these days, potable water is not frequently available in the town. It's even impossible to get potable water from the nearby town. We couldn't even get anyone who can fix this, as the current situation is not favorable to get accessories.
According to the coordinator of economic sector of the district of Garaalta, Mr. Mallas Gabru, among the 79 potable water projects in the district, 23 of them were totally destroyed by enemy troops and are out of use. The administration is unable to solve the current problem due to the all-encompassing siege by the federal government.
As you all are in the complete siege, we couldn't even get spare parts to fix the destroyed clean water projects. The enemies destroyed everything valuable, whether they find outside or inside the office. As a result, we are exposed to a grave problem.
As water is a basic need and everybody has the right to get it, the international community needs to understand the critical situation in Tigray and to take all necessary measures to end the genocidal siege that blocked the basic supplies.
The deadly war that lasted for more than a year has forced millions of others to flee from their homes to escape the merciless and rampant deaths they witnessed. But now the life they are leading in IDP shelters is dreadful, starting from the all-encompassing siege imposed upon all Tigrayans. They are completely deprived of access to life-saving humanitarian aid. As a result, IDPs sheltered in Maqala City have conducted a demonstration calling for the international community to take a pragmatic action on Abiy Ahmed's regime and press it to open humanitarian corridors into Tigray. For more, Bethlehem Ayala reports.
The internally displaced people who have been sheltered in Maqala staged a demonstration saying that human-made crisis in Tigray should come to an end, and they stated that due to the blockage of banks, network and roads, they are in dire situation. The closed banking services should resume their function soon. The federal government should end the blockade. All the entryways to Tigray are blocked by Abiy Ahmed. It's because he wants us to starve to death, so there won't be any Tigrayans anymore. The IDPs called for international community to take pragmatic action on the federal government to stop the siege and the blockage of humanitarian assistance. We call for the international community to feel the suffering we're in, which is caused by the siege. We couldn't get access to basic supplies to save our lives.
The international community is not taking action to save the lives at risk. There are women with newborns here and we don't know what we can do for them. There are also people with chronic illnesses like cancer who are suffering from lack of food and medicine. Generally, we the IDPs are suffering. We need attention and action.
We're in a dire situation. We have no medicine, food, or water. We're starving. We don't have clothes to wear. We call for the international community to share our pain and do something practical to save our lives.
In a recent interview with Tigray television, Dr. Tsagai Barihu, who's deputy head of Health Bureau of Tigray, said patients with chronic diseases are suffering due to the shortage of medical supplies. Sabla Worklama has more on that.
In the year-long ongoing conflict, the people of Tigray have been victims of war and various atrocities. Public facilities as well as other infrastructures have been destroyed by Ethiopian, Eritrean, and Amhara forces. Children have been killed, and women have been victims of sexual violence. Medical supplies, food aid, as well as any other humanitarian aid have not entered Tigray as of June 28th, since roads are blocked and banks remained closed. This has made things unbearable for patients with chronic diseases. Dr. Tsagai Barihu is assistant manager at the Tigray Bureau of Healthcare. In his interview with Tigray television, he stated that the patients with chronic diseases are dying due to lack of medical supplies in Tigray.
ናይ ኩላሊት ሕማም ዘለዎም ወገናትና ናይ ኩላሊት ጸገም ዘለዎም ምስ ካንሰር ተተሓዘ ሕማም ዘለዎም ካንሰር ወይ ከዓ ሕማም መንሽሮ ዝበሃል ምስ ናይ ልብ ሕማማት ዝበሃሉ ከምኡውን ኣብ ናይ መተንፈሲ ስርዓት ኣካልናውን ከም ናይ ሕማም ኣስሚ ዝመስሉ
Patients that are suffering from kidney failure, cancer, and heart disease, lung problem, and even those that have been injured from accidents are unable to get any kind of medication since we have no medical supplies to treat them with. Even if there are machineries and other medical equipments, there are no consumable medications because the roads are blocked. So this means that these patients have no choice but to wait for their death.
Dr. Tsagai also mentioned that these diseases need to be treated quickly to ensure the survival of our patients. However, due to the shortage of supplies, the Bureau is unable to secure the lives of many.
ከምዚ ግዜ ዝህብ ዓይነት ሕማም ኣይኮነን ከምዚ ተጸቢኻ ስልሓን እስኪ ድሕሪ ተሰሙን ወይ ድሕሪ ወርሕ ከምዚ ክግበረሉ ትብሎ ነገር ኣይኮነን በታት ሐኪም ዝዛ መሰረት ተዘይከይዳ ናይ ባዕሉ ዝኾነ ዓብይ ጉዳት ኣሎ
Patients with chronic disease are not the kind where they get medications after a week or a month to survive. They need to get the prescribed medications on time. If not, what follows is pain, suffering, and death.
Dr. Tigrai added that the entire health system of Tigray has been deliberately collapsed due to the war perpetrated by Abiy Ahmed's government and his allies and called this a genocidal act.
ወገንና እዩ ዝሞት ዘሎ ሰንኪ ክነድሕኖ ናኻልና ግን ብምክንያት ትዕዞ ክነድሕኖ ይከኣልና ተጎስቅልናን ይሄን ለዘልና እውን
Those that are dying are our people. They are dying because we couldn't save them due to the siege. We also couldn't help those that are in excruciating pain because we couldn't get medical supplies. They are committing genocide by collapsing the entire health system of Tigray.
The United Nations has reported that only 15% of the needed aid has entered, and the estimation of daily trucks carrying the humanitarian aid needed has increased from 100 to 282. They have also added that the trucks are being stranded in Samara, Afar region.
Ethiopia is a home to various nations and nationalities. Currently facing ethnic clashes, the Ethiopian government continues the spreading of false propaganda. Residents of Dessie and Kombolcha say this portrayal of false propaganda will not and should not hinder their strong social bonds with the people of Tigray. For more, Winta Kidana reports.
One of the consequences of the ongoing war in Tigray is the deterioration of the long-standing interrelations that took hundreds of years to build. Ever since Abiy's rule, the federal government has used false images and propaganda to ruin the bond between the Tigrayan and Amhara people. It has been 2 years since Abiy's government started propagating to sever these two bonds. The residents of Dessie and Kombolcha say the socio-economic relations of the two people have been halted since the start of the war.
The current situation for Amhara and Tigray people is difficult. No one is making their usual standard of living due to the severed ties. I used to go as far as Afar and Shiraro in Tigray to trade, but now there is no movement due to the blockade and I can't go anywhere.
Despite the false propaganda against Tigrayans thus being portrayed by the central government, the residents of Dessie and Kombolcha believe the bond between the people of Amhara and Tigray remains strong.
I believe the people of Tigray to be Ethiopians, especially tied to the Amhara people, not only because we're neighbors, but also because we have had long-standing bond of matrimonial relations. This makes each of us bond to the other. And I don't think it's a bond to be easily broken because we're of the same family tree.
The bond is clearly strong because of the marital ties with each other. I am personally from Amhara, married to a Tigrayan. We have been blessed with children. I also know a guy from Tigray who is married to a girl from our neighborhood. We wish for things to go back to how they were. The market, transportation, and everything else we used to do. I believe the two committees should continue their relations and political conditions of the country shouldn't break the bond they had. We see the people of Tigray referring to us as their brothers. As you can see, the Tigrayan soldiers currently in Kombolcha are playing with us, and all I see is their brotherly love, which I believe is enough to continue our relations. I hope they do. The things I used to hear about Tigrayan soldiers and the reality I am witnessing are complete opposites. In my opinion, the people of Tigray are peaceful and stable people. We bring stuff from Tigray and they take things for trade as well. But above all, we are family. Our ancestors told us we are brothers with the people of Tigray. Politicians are using false propaganda to destroy the good relations we have with the people of Tigray. But I think by now, everyone is capable of separating the truth from the lies. All we need is unity and to continue our relations as they were.
That's all we have for today. Thanks for watching.